Welcome back to the Deep Digger Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew, my other host right over there.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to drop some comments below. We love that. And more importantly, subscribe. We are talking the college football playoffs today.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some of these matchups that just happened. So let's go ahead and start with the Penn State Boise game. Penn State wins at 31-14. And a lot of talk about Ashton Genty, how he would have really looked against this level of competition. Penn State, now Drew Aller is looking really good. I actually see people giving him, if he goes to draft, first round draft buzz right now. And the coach is getting really praised all around. So, what was your main takeaways from this game?
Yeah, I mean, my main takeaway from this game was in fact Penn State, how good they looked. I think that you kind of wipe your eyes, and of the four teams left in this playoff, they're the ones who haven't dropped the ball against a like uncommon opponent. I mean, if you look at Notre Dame had that huge loss, probably the worst loss of the four against a MAC school. Ohio State lost to Michigan in a game that like now as we keep going it seems like an anomaly, but it's like it happened, so something has to do with Ryan Day and this Ohio State team, just specifically against Michigan. And Penn State, I mean, their only loss or only two losses are against really good teams, which is Ohio State and Oregon. And so it's like, damn, this is a really good team. The quarterback has a really solid game, and Penn State is so elite on defense. It's insane. So, like, I think Penn State's performance just stands out and they stamp their mark as far as, hey, we belong in the playoff.
Oh, definitely. They belong. And I actually really want to see them matched up against Ohio State in the championship game. I want to see the rematch, especially with how the offense is rolling now for Penn State. I think it just looks a little bit different than when they first played against Ohio State. Does Genty kind of struggling against this top tier defense change your mind about his Heisman hopes and how everyone's kind of looking at him?
I think that's a really good question because ultimately it comes down to like, was it the right call to make Travis Hunter? And I was saying it this entire time when it did happen, like it was the right call to make Travis Hunter the Heisman. I think that he had the most impressive season. He had done something that no one else had done. I think that needs to be rewarded because he was the best player in college football this year. On the other side, everyone was like, okay, well, then a running back's never going to win the Heisman again. And it's like, okay, well, you do have to mark for what he's done against this level of competition. Like, you have to understand that. I think if Ashton Genty was playing in the SEC or the Big Ten, his numbers would have been down. But I think he would have been a key piece to one of those teams to like maybe push him over the edge. But I think it was just a year where two guys deserved the Heisman. Do I think it makes him a pretender that he had this level of game? I mean, no, he had two fumbles in the first half, but realistically, as I was saying before, Penn State has an elite defense. This probably, if not number one, is the number two team in the nation as far as defensively. And I mean, he just ran into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, I don't think it really takes away a lot for me, even though I'm like, he. This is a game where he had to really carry the offense and carry the team. The fumbles are concerning. I think looking at it, you can look at it from a draft perspective and say he played against a really high level defense and he didn't look like this amazing guy. So is that going to translate to the NFL? And on the case of Travis Hunter, I think he looks equally as average against this team like this, or if he had made the playoffs. If you look at him versus McMillan from Arizona, I just saw the highlight reel for Travis Hunter against Arizona. Someone was like, you could argue he lost every route against McMillan on that. It was just like Aaron throws or like the play went a different way. So we've seen how he could do against like top level talent, but he's not going against that top level talent every week. Let's not act like the Big 12 is the Big 10 or the SEC either. And I know it's tougher than the Mountain West, but yeah, I think Travis Hunter would have gotten a little bit exposed against this level of talent as well.
All right. So, what do you think about the argument that was happening beforehand? And I know a lot of people were like, that's kind of ridiculous. But Cam Skattebo was saying before this game, before this week, I'm the best running back in the nation. Like I'm 100%. I know that I'm the best running back. And Cam Skattebo goes out there and lights up Texas. He does it every which way. He runs. He throws for a one. He catches a long pass. And then you look at Ashton Genty. Ashton Genty still had a great game, but he does have those 2 fumbles against a top tier defense. And everyone was saying that Cam Skattebo couldn't do this against that Texas front. Does that change your mind on, hey, Cam Skattebo probably was the best in the league this year, or was it still Ashton Genty because Ashton Genty was unreal the entire season?
I just don't know if you could judge it off of one game in this season against. They each had this one game against top tier talent, and obviously Skattebo was better, but Genty just put up monster numbers, and I feel like he could have had bigger numbers if they played him through all of the games. So you can't really take that away from him. I think they're both, top 2 round draft prospects in my eyes at this point, and I think they both contribute really well in an NFL team next year immediately. Who would have the better career? I think is a toss up. I think Genty with the power, you know, could trend a little bit better, but Skattebo looks. I didn't know that he was this kind of Swiss Army knife that could do a little bit of everything, and he is great as a pure running back as well.
Yeah, he's crazy. He does shit that no one else can do. Like he is a bowling ball, but then he's also like agile enough to really, though that wheel route was crazy. He just had everybody beat. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting moving forward how teams value him in the draft. I don't know if he's going to end up being a 2nd-round pick. I don't know if he's even going to be a 3rd-round pick. It's going to be interesting to see what the league like says his value is. But if someone does get him in the later rounds, like that's a crazy steal as a guy that like is just an all-around football guy.
Genty, I feel like is going to be a guy that goes like late 1st round, early 2nd round, and the team's going to be like really happy with their pick. He's going to score touchdowns,
He's going to
probably.
sell a lot of jerseys.
Yeah. And then Skattebo's going to be a guy that goes in like I think the 4th or 5th, and the team like it's going to sneak up on some NFL fans like, oh, this guy could actually be a starter for us.
Yeah.
After like 2 or 3 years, like he has to work his way in.
Yeah. And so, I mean, ultimately, I think that Boise State was, I mean, there was a path there at some point, but they drew a tough draw in Penn State. Penn State advances. I mean, they just had horses. That defense is nasty. I think this might be the best defense in the entire left in the playoffs besides Ohio State. And that's a big jump, but I don't know. It could be 1 and 2. You could flip it. You could, make me go either way on that one. I think that Penn State is rolling though.
Yeah, I think Penn State, we said before this playoff happened that Penn State was sneaky our pick to win it, and it's looking really good right now. I think that I'm going to roll with them as my pick to win the whole thing right now still.
I'd bet it. But, I mean, realistically, Ohio State looks so good. I mean, how could you bet against Ohio State at this point?
Well, we're going to talk about Ohio State in a little while, but let's talk about that Texas-Arizona State game because I think this was the best game of the playoff so far. And Arizona State I think at first looked like, okay, this is going to be another kind of boring blowout. They fought back. I thought they were going to win it at the end. They go to overtime. What did this all mean for Texas and Arizona State?
The thing, Arizona State, Kenny Dillingham is a dog. Like they had this team, I believe there was like 8th in the Big 12 in preseason rankings. And look at what they ended up doing. They pull it out. They come out of nowhere, buzzing out of nowhere, like late in the season.
Nobody was talking about this team until like week 10. Like nobody even considered this team for the playoff because it was BYU, it was Colorado, it was other Big 12 teams, and then they just come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it was insane. And so they come out of nowhere. They're hot. They're rolling. This team is talking shit to Texas, and everyone's like, this is a bad move. I don't know why they're allowing them to do this. Sam Levitt, the Cam Skattebo, why are these 2 guys specifically talking and cashing checks that their butt can't cash? And they ended up going out and doing it. I mean, realistically, I know Sam Levitt was saying that he was like, hey, I'm going to show that I'm the better quarterback. Quinn Ewers was so inconsistent this game and just trying to give it away. And then at the end, like in pure poetry, like he was the one who put it away. He converted a huge 4th and 13 to put the Texas Longhorns over the edge. And realistically, that was the season on the line, nuts on the table. Like Quinn Ewers does it. And it's like, Quinn, why can't we do this the entire game? Why are you just so inconsistent? And I think that inconsistency is going to be one thing that like really comes back to bite Texas in the butt. But like for ASU, you've got to walk away from this game feeling amazing. Hopefully Kenny Dillingham is here for the long haul and he stays. If I'm a bigger program that has a questionable coach, I'm looking at Kenny Dillingham and I'm just trying to pay him a bag to move off of this, because that's a special guy there that has a lot of people on this organization and this team believing in what they can do because of him. I want that. If I'm just a random Big 12, Big 10, SEC school, like I want that guy in my locker room. Man, it was insane because they could have easily packed it away and it could have been another blowout. But they came out the second half, they understood, and Kenny Dillingham was talking about it like, hey, we've seen bigger comebacks before. You guys need to believe. And they really took that to heart and they just ran with it. It was insane.
Yeah, and we talked about how good Cam Skattebo was in that game. Really impressive. Definitely, I think earned the more respect in saying he should have got more Heisman buzz than what he did. Quinn Ewers, same story over and over again. He's not consistent. I don't really think his talents on the field like jump out at me or flash on the screen. I was saying to start this season how the quarterback, we went through the quarterback rankings of this upcoming draft, and Quinn Ewers was near to the top, and I was just saying I don't think he's special to me. Like his talent doesn't look amazing, and we're kind of seeing that he's not really this quarterback that's going to show out and have these crazy moments. I mean, yeah, that fourth down throw, but what I take away from that is I don't want cover zero in a win or lose situation like that. I kind of hate that move from a coaching standpoint. And then they got beat. The safety had to make a decision. He got beat on the deep route. Um, so yeah, they Arizona State had it in their hands for a 4th and like 13, right?
Yeah.
That could have been the game. And so that has to hurt if you're Arizona State. But
Okay. What do you think about prior to regulation ending, the non-targeting call? Do you feel like that was the right move?
I mean, if we're gonna stick to the whole thing, all season I've seen non-targeting calls decide games and quote unquote, but I don't care for it. Like, listen, if you're gonna win the game, I feel like you have to win the game at this point. Like, don't rely on a targeting call. And so I'm okay with the non-call there always, but if a call happens, I wouldn't be mad at it. That's kind of where I stand on the whole targeting at the end of games kind of thing. I mean, non-targeting calls saved Miami season for a while this year. So
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if we want to be by the book and textbook, yeah, it was targeting. It was 100% targeting. He led with the crown of his helmet. He hit him right in the helmet. Like, I don't know what we're doing here if that's not targeting. But at the same time, you don't want that ending because of a targeting call. So I understand swallowing your whistle, but then at that point, just get rid of the rule. Like, it's so stupid at this point. It's so inconsistent. Just get rid of that shit. Make it egregious. Make it the like same thing as the NFL, where if you get 2 personal fouls on you, you're out of the game. You're ejected. Don't make it this one end all be all thing where it's either targeting or not targeting. Just do it a 15-yard penalty if that's what it's going to be, but don't make it this like larger than life, like a scary thing where you're afraid to call it down the line like fairly. So it's kind of bullshit. Yeah, I get it.
they gotta start finding these guys. They're making all this NIL. They gotta start finding them for targeting calls.
What I would do, I would find the coach. I mean, we know that they have it in their bag. You know what I mean? So I'd be like, hey, you know what, Sark, you owe for every targeting call. I would start finding the coach. Lane, because Ole Miss consistently is faking injuries, you're fined. Bam.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, this brings up something else. Let's talk about Notre Dame, Georgia, because there's so much going on in this game. The running the punt team on and off the field situation. and Kirby Smart saying that that's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. When has that been illegal?
Never.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I'm seeing clips of people saying the wide receiver for Notre Dame moved before the offside happened. So a lot of controversy with this one.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was a good game. I mean, it's better than it was a lot closer than the scoreboard says for consistently the whole first quarter. Both teams just did not know what to do offensively. I mean, Notre Dame, we talked about this before. Notre Dame has an elite defense. They have a suspect offense. I don't believe in Riley Leonard at all. I don't think that he can throw the ball. He is very good as far as a mobile quarterback, and that's what we've seen Georgia kind of struggle with against Jalen Milroe. We've seen it various times throughout this season. What was Georgia Tech's quarterback? What's his name? King. They struggled against him, so I kind of figured he would give them fits, and he did. I mean, realistically, but I don't think that a team that their next game is against Penn State. I don't think Penn State is scared of Riley Leonard at all. I don't think they're scared of this running game at all. They're going to make him throw it. And what they did was once they got up on a big lead, it happened so quick. I mean, with less than a minute left in the second half, it was a quick turnaround and a 10-point swing. And so then they come out again and get another touchdown. So it was a very quick point of view from the almost end of the first half to the start of the second half where they were up 17, and you can't get down that much against this elite defense. And Georgia, with their backup quarterback, just could not overcome this staunch defense.
Well, let's put the blame where it belongs on walk-on cornerback Parker Jones.
Oh no!
Running into the ref. It's all his fault, and all of Georgia hates him. And he had to come out with an apology. That's the reason they lost. But no, in all seriousness, yeah, it was the run game was too much for Georgia. They didn't have the offense to overcome with their backup quarterback, and even so, I don't even know if Carson Beck would have been enough because of how we've seen him play to overcome this kind of defense. So I don't really feel great about Notre Dame in this Penn State matchup.
The one thing I will say is the play that did turn itself on its head was the sack strip fumble, where at the end of the first half, and I don't believe Carson Beck makes that mistake. I think he probably throws a pick or something like at some point during this game, but he doesn't make that specific mistake that then turns around the momentum that makes it a 10-point swing heading into halftime. And if that mistake isn't made, because I mean, realistically, it was a freshman guy. You don't have a lot of pocket awareness. You haven't been in this situation before. Carson Beck has. And so I think that's the one thing that it completely flipped the game. I don't think Carson Beck makes that mistake, but we've seen him make other mistakes before.
Yeah, and I'll give it to Riley Leonard. I feel like earlier in the season, he just wasn't doing anything other than running, and he didn't really throw much. But in this game, the last round against Indiana, I feel like when he does throw, when they're forcing him to throw, he's really efficient, and it's not like he's gonna light up the stats. He's not gonna light up the stat sheet, but I feel like when he throws, it's effective, and in turn, that's helping the run game. So it's not completely. I mean, they really don't have a passing game, but when they do try it, I feel like it's worked lately.
He's ass. I don't know what you're talking about. He's ass. I mean, but it is what it is. I mean, yeah, you have to play off the play action. I mean, but a lot of this, they've been playing ahead. So the team is expecting the run and then going with the pass. So a lot of it is play off the play action. A lot of it is real effective dump offs. What is this Notre Dame team going to do when they are down by a touchdown late in the fourth quarter against a staunch defense? It's going to be tough. They're going to have real tough sledding, dude. I think that it's going to be too much to overcome, but do they even get in that situation? I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how they play it the rest of this year.
Yeah, we'll see a 12-6 Penn State Notre Dame game.
It's going to be crazy, dude. I think that Notre Dame, again, I think their defense is good, but I think that Penn State just plays it so well. I mean, they do exactly what they need to do. They run the ball. They have a guy that's an all that as a skeleton key for them in Warren, and then they have Drew Aller. I mean, realistically, the only thing that Penn State is truly lacking is the wide receiver weapons. The guy that can go out there and just wave their hand and be like, "Okay, give me the ball." They do not have that guy, but they have everything else in that offense at play. I think that I don't want to say blowout, but I mean, we'll talk about it later this week. So be sure to subscribe. But I think it's going to be blowout.
Yeah, here's the thing with Notre Dame with that offense and with this team. I against Penn State, I'm picking Penn State. If they played um, Ohio State, I'm picking Ohio State. If they played Texas, I'd pick Notre Dame. So I feel like if you are only able to beat 2 out of the 3 teams in the playoff, then you know maybe it wasn't your year. Maybe you gotta go back, recruit a quarterback, and figure it out. But still an amazing year. They keep all that TV money because they're not in the conference for getting to the semifinal.
Mhm.
So force them to go to the ACC, guys. Come on.
Do
Um,
it.
Last game we want to talk about here is Ohio State Oregon, which was, if you're an Oregon fan, depressing. This was a year that I thought. I mean, we were saying, is Oregon real? That was our kind of quote about them the whole season. And then as they kept winning, we were like, well, yeah, they're real, but like, how real are they? Like, how far can they actually go? And we just saw Ohio State is just so talented. They kind of ran into a brick wall.
I know we talked like I think a little bit before pod, and we are like, hey, like the Notre Dame Georgia game, that was the most like surprise to me. I think no, like this has to be the most surprising to me. Like this was insane. They just Ohio State went out there and just ran through them. It was great. I mean, they were running, they were throwing it all over. Will Howard didn't make any mistakes. Oregon just played scared at certain points. Like it just really seemed like they were the better team from start to finish the entire way. And it seemed like there's no way that this Ohio State team is going to lose to anybody. They should be the favorites moving forward for the championship. I mean, I don't see a team knocking them off if they go out there and play ball the way they played on that game.
Yeah, and this Texas team doesn't scare them at all. I don't think there's anything that this Texas team does better than Ohio State. And I don't think this Texas defense, if they had trouble with this Arizona State offense, they're gonna be in a spin cycle with Judkins and Henderson on that Ohio State offense. Not to mention all the receivers they have. So yeah, this seems like blowout city to me. Ohio State against Texas.
Dude, I mean, that Ohio State defense is suffocating. It makes me think like again, how the hell did they lose to the Michigan Wolverines this year? Like that was insane. I mean, say what you want, but Michigan has a like now a chip. Like, oh, okay, we did something. You cannot tell the story of if this Ohio State Buckeyes team goes out and wins this national championship. You cannot tell the story of the Ohio State Buckeyes without when mentioning the Michigan Wolverines. They were such a pivotal part in this season. We went out there and exposed you. We lit a fire under your ass. We showed everybody what your mistakes were. We woke up Chip Kelly, we woke up Ryan Day, and you guys went out there and went on a national championship run. I'd be like, if I was Michigan, I'd be like, hey, we're national champs again.
I mean, much like the Northern Illinois coach told Notre Dame, like, "Hey, I'll share with you how we beat you and like our tips." Texas needs to be calling Michigan coaching staff right now. Like, what did you guys do that worked? We need to figure this out. But yeah,
I
that
think
Michigan team has like they on one of their potentially worst seasons kind of in the beginning where we're saying this team is lost a lot of talent, they're not winning. They've really pulled it together and had a good amount of wins and some signature wins at the end to where I'm like, dude, Michigan's going to be back next year. This is the worst that Ohio State got them, and next year is going to be crazy.
Okay, let's after this game, let's talk a couple bowl games. I want to talk Cam Ward. I want to talk Michigan beating Alabama. But
We're
right
gonna
now, let's
we're
stick
gonna
to
talk SEC. So
okay. Yep. But I mean, the Buckeyes, man. Do you like? I think what did cost them that Michigan game was themselves. I mean, they have to look inwards. They have to look at. They had too big of an ego. They wanted to run it down the Michigan Wolverines' throat, and realistically, they just don't. That was Michigan's strength. Why are we going to play to their strengths? Instead, we should be airing it out. Jeremiah Smith is a dog. I mean, people are saying that he could be 1-1 this year. He still has to wait another 2 seasons to be draft eligible. It is insane. I mean, Will Howard, this whole year I've been very, very vocal that I don't believe in Will Howard. But when you put him in that game plan where you highlight everybody else and don't leave it up to him to make stupid ass mistakes, Will Howard is a viable quarterback. Like you have to put him in that specific game plan. If I go to the locker room if I'm Will Howard and I'm like, why the hell weren't we playing like this the rest of the season, Chip? Like, what are we doing, Ryan? Like, why did you not put me? Like, we have horses. Let them run, dude. We have the best receiving core. We have the two great running backs. Like, I should have been playing like this the entire season. I would have been lighting it up. Instead, hey, we found it late. That's cool. I think they maybe were just trying to, stay healthy because it has been a war of attrition throughout this playoff. But man, you got to be looking back like we could have really opened it up this season. Like if we would have played like this the entire year, we would have been ranked number 1. We would have not lost in the ways that we did lose. You got to look back, but if it all ends in a national championship, everyone can pat themselves on the back.
if they don't win the national championship, is Ryan Day fired?
No, I think
If they lose
because
if they lose against Texas, is he fired?
no, I think it's too late in the season. I mean, it's too late in the coaching carousel. I think that's going to be like a lot of the downfall for some of these like moving forward, some of these playoff teams that don't really deserve to be in the playoff and their coaches are kind of like on the so-so. I think a playoff berth is going to curse you to keep your coach if you were on the fence about him because it's too late in the coaching carousel. And even then, with the team looking the way it did, 2 blowout wins in dominant fashion, I think you have to continue with Ryan Day. I know a lot of fans were very, very pissed about losing to Michigan, and they said that's the end all be all. But you've got to look at these performances and be like, damn, like we have a good team, we have a good coach. So I think you gotta roll with it.
Well, yeah, we're gonna be covering these upcoming games. So make sure you subscribe and comment what you think. I want to talk about the SEC because there's a lot of buzz going around. Before the playoff teams were selected, it was like, how many SEC teams can we shove in the playoff, even though there's like a lot of 3-loss teams? And Lane Kiffin over here on Twitter, crying, wham, wham, wham. Why aren't they putting my SEC? He's over here door dashing some wham burger and French fries nonstop. Now the SEC, there's one team left in the Final Four here, and it's a team that wasn't even in the SEC before. And all these other schools, Bama lost, South Carolina lost. Like, has NIL really that quickly shifted the power balance with the SEC and these other conferences?
I think that it's okay. I think the SEC is still the best conference. I think it's still the best conference in college football. I think a lot of people are saying that, oh, okay, well, it's obviously the Big Ten. I think the Big Ten is very top heavy. I think that we see if you're going to make the argument that Indiana is pretenders, they didn't deserve to be in this playoff. Like what the fuck, they suck. Look at what they've done. They played in the Big Ten. The Big Ten was not this like murderer's row. I mean, realistically, the Big Ten probably has the top 3 teams in the nation in Ohio State, Oregon, and Penn State. But the SEC was more consistently like had better teams. I mean, from top to bottom, it has better football teams that you want to play on a week in, week out basis. So if we're going to make the argument that Indiana was pretender, then you can't turn around and be like, okay, well, the Big Ten is better than the SEC. You know what I mean? I think that if you're playing your Mac in Always Sunny, I'm playing both sides. Like you can't do that. You know what I mean? But do I think that the Big Ten has top tier talent and it has better like top end teams? Yeah, I mean it is shown, but I don't think that the SEC is just some slouch, and I don't think that the SEC is just going to die off from here. Realistically, they're going to pour so much money into NIL and getting players into this. And realistically, we had talked about this before. One clip that like kind of plays in my head over and over again. Kirby Smart was talking about. I think it was after the Kentucky game. They're like, "What's the biggest difference?" And he was like, "It is the fact that players we're reducing the roster size, and two, players don't have to come here and sit anymore. They can go play for a smaller school. We are openly telling, like I listened to Kirk Herbstreit. He was talking about his son was not really getting recruited to Ohio State, which he is an alum of Ohio State. And they were telling him, you should go to a MAC school. You should go to a smaller division school, get play, and then we'll recruit you after because we don't have the roster size for you. And so like these teams are telling players like, hey, we just don't have it. And other players are looking like, okay, well, I can go here and I can sit for 3 years and hopefully get my chance. Or I can go play at a smaller school. I can go play at a Vandy. I can go play at Kansas. I can go play at BYU, make a bag, show teams what I'm not, what I am, raise my stock, and then come back in here. But that limits what you can do as far as the substitutions. Hey, we're not subbing in defensive linemen. We don't have 6 wide receivers that can each win a Heisman. We don't have a quarterback that is sitting behind. In the rare instance, you have an Arch Manning and Quinn Ewers, but we've seen that is super rare. Once you get past QB1, it's done. So you just don't have the depth in these rosters that you did before, which the SEC was just hoarding guys just to say they had guys.
Yeah, definitely. I think you could still say SEC is the best conference from top to bottom, but we're getting a lot more parity in the good teams in each conference. Like like you said, the top 3 teams might be in the Big 10. And I think we're only going to see, especially I know there's problems with the NIL era and like all the money issues and like regulating all that stuff, but I think what it's brought is as we go further into the years of NIL, more and more teams are going to get more competitive, and we're not going to see like Alabama win 6 straight national. We're not going to see Georgia win a bunch of national. We're going to see a lot other teams become really good and compete, and it'll be a lot more parity in the playoff and in the championship games, which is like fun for me as a viewer of college football. I mean, if it's not your favorite team, then like you're not really caring who's rooting. You just want to see good football. And so I think we're going to see a lot more good football. And that's what this NIL kind of era is doing. We're like you're saying, we saw BYU come up and be really good. Then Arizona State come up and be really good. Like these Big 12 schools are going to just keep getting better and better and potentially start to compete with the Big 10, with the SEC level talent. And I think Pac 12, if you look at the former Pac 12 teams, did really good this year. And them reforming that, give it a few years, they're going to be up there kind of with the Big 12, the ACC. They got teams in the playoff. They had a lot of teams right there. I think they obviously couldn't compete with the level of the SEC top schools, but they're on their way. Like the SEC is still really good. They're still the best top to bottom, but I think they have to be looking over their shoulder at these other conferences thinking the times are changing. Like we cannot just dominate recruiting that easily. And I think there's going to be top recruit guys who are looking at situations and be like, you know what? I don't want to go to Georgia. I'm going to go to Arizona State because I like what they're building, and they're gonna pay me still a couple million. Like they're still gonna pay me top dollar, and I can go anywhere. I mean, look at UNLV this year was really good, and they're not paying their quarterback like $10 million, $5 million. So yeah, the parity is gonna be really intriguing going forward in these couple years.
Yeah, and I mean with UNLV, rumor has it they didn't pay their quarterback at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They got the best deal in the country.
But I mean, let's stick on that fact specifically. I think that we're going to start to see more and more, like, because the SEC has the staunch defenses, they have good offensive lines, they have good running backs, they have all these weapons. Players are seeing that there is a clear path to play meaningful football, and especially if you are a quarterback, you can go and light it up. You can take the Shador Sanders route and play in the Big 12 and make your mark, still play meaningful games, have your team on the radar, but you don't have to be in the SEC anymore and play those really hard defenses.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens going forward. You guys let us know in the comments. Do you think the SEC is still the best? Do you think that other conferences are catching up? Let us know. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.
All right, later.